I'm in my zone, on the road to the Super Bowl. Every game on the schedule crucial, it take a toll. It don't matter if we at home or on the road. You try to tackle, I'll truck a sucker and take it soul. I'm staring at 4th and goal, gotta find an open hole. A linebacker just close a hole where I'm supposed to go. So now I'm thinking my centers are all pro, so I trust he can make a walk for wherever the ball go. Tap the Q on the shoulder, that safety is coming over. I see that look in his eyes. If he slip, I'ma slide right under the tight end, curl over the right end. Long as the wide receiver block for me, I can jump right in. Yeah, there's 5 seconds on the play clock. The crowd was loud, but they stopped. Now it's silent while they watch. It's stand off in the red zone. All I see is red home. Watch me get this touchdown and this W and head home.
Oh, it's been a minute since we heard that one, baby. What's good, Cowboys Nation? Welcome into Cowboys Game Day Live. Jesse Holley, Skywalker still in the park. In the flesh, man.
Finally
this
back.
Feels good.
Yes,
to be back and have that energy, right, for the Cowboys games that we haven't had for the first half of the season. But it's all good. It's all good. Shouts out to our guy E. Shouts out to A to Z Sports getting us here live at Walk-Ons, and of course, shout out to Irish Whiskey, our one of our sponsors, and Cowboys Experience as well, for helping us get here today. But how you feeling, big dog?
I'm good. And shout out to the fans. Thank you for all of you guys who've locked in and been loaded with us. Even when we were at the crib, we appreciate you. And if you are out and about, we are at Walk-Ons off of I-20 in Arlington. Come through. Come watch the game with us. Come holler at us, man. We love the experience. We're so happy to be outside. We outside. So,
we can touch things.
Yeah, we
can feel the energy.
With people, you know, I like to say I'm the sports talk equivalent of Brell. People feel when I speak. So I love that people can feel us now that we outside, man. So come out and check us out. If you're not, continue to log in and listen to us. But if you're in town for the game, you want to come through pregame or postgame, we're going to be here and we're going to be live.
Yes, indeed, man. And like we always do with our shows, when we start off on the pregame show, we like to talk about the inactive players for the game day. And let me find those for you right here. Okay, so we got Noah Igbenogany, Eric Scott, Viliami Feoko, Austin Richards, Trey Lance, who's going to be the third quarterback, and then Cavante Turpin, who did not practice throughout the week, is going to be inactive, which means we finally get to see Deuce Vaughn over there. So we've been talking about that for weeks, that they just don't trust Deuce Vaughn to do anything in the backfield. But I think he might be the guy that gets the punt return and kickoff duties. So we'll see a little Deuce out there, but no Cavante Turpin, Jesse.
No, and that's, in this particular game, you hope that those little integral pieces aren't missing, because Cavante Turpin, though he hasn't brought one back for a touchdown, the thought of it makes him a very dangerous returner. So that's always in the back of the mind of special teams coaches, the punt return team, the kick return team, because at any given moment, Cavante Turpin can take one the distance. Yeah. So not having him out there, that kind of alleviates that pressure that you put on teams special team wise. So, but we'll get a chance to see what Deuce Vaughn will be able to do in that role this year, this game in particular for the Giants. So let's just hope. Let's hope that we're not looking and needing those hitting yardage that Cavante Turpin gives us.
He also had a package on offense, right? Like he was starting to get more involved on offense. He's seen double-digit snaps over the last few weeks. Touchdown, catch against the 49ers, touchdown catch against the Eagles, and not just a touchdown, but just he showed some grit. He showed some toughness. He's not a big dude, and he kind of got crunched on a kickoff return, and came back in a few plays later to score the touchdown to put the Cowboys ahead. So, big/little shoes to fill, who's Vaughn. But in all seriousness, I do think that role, maybe not right now, but at some point, if he's not, available, it could be missed. Maybe they use him in that role, or they just give it to a guy who we've been, asking to see more of, and that's Brandon Cooks. You never want to say in games, Jesse. And let's talk about this Cowboys offense for a second.
Before we move to the Cowboys offense, I do want to add this one little caveat to. We talk about the game of football being a very, very strange young lady, and it's in these moments where you go, boy, having a guy like Cavante Turpin, and even sometimes he'll give you one of those frightening scares in that special teams moment. Deuce Vaughn, you want a guy who hasn't gotten much playing time this year, and at pretty much none at returning kicks. So, good thing that they're at home. You don't have to worry about the wind blowing. But sometimes when that ball is sailing, you got to understand how it goes. If it's end over end, it's most likely going to fall to your left. If it's head up, if it's nose up, nose down, it's going to fall to your right. So having these guys catch these punts and catch these kickoffs, it's just another element to the game. This game is a very, very weird game, and you don't want to give an opportunity for a team to have life by the mishandling of the football on things like a punt or like a kickoff, not having Cavante Turpin out there.
Now that's a good point from a nuanced standpoint of special teams, because Deuce hasn't caught a bunch of punts in his career, let alone just this season, right, as a rookie. But in college, he wasn't a punt returner, and we kind of take those things for granted, right, until you got a ball or something like that. And so you're hoping that him having that in that work this week at practice, it's not too foreign for him in this week. Right now, I think instead of looking for Deuce to take one to the crib, hey, just secure the catch.
Just secure the catch.
Secure the catch.
Because they're going to be punting a lot. I have a feeling
hope so.
that the Giants will be punting a lot.
Yeah, I
today.
sure as hell hope so.
Yeah.
And you said it's a weird game. It really is, man. I never thought that week one against the Giants, when you whooped them 40-0, they would be worse coming into week 10. And I think that is the case on both sides of the ball. Offensively, we know they've went down. Daniel Jones out for the season, ACL. Tyrod Taylor is on IR, and now they're starting quarterback Danny DeVito, and we'll get to the defensive side.
Tommy DeVito.
I've been calling him Danny's little son all week, to the point where now I'm gonna call him Danny. Tommy DeVito, Danny's son. Yeah. It's really not his son, y'all. Tommy DeVito, and I hope Tommy don't come out here and do something crazy. Like, yeah, you like that? Know my name, Skywalker. No, but seriously, Tommy DeVito is a quarterback. And then on the other side of the ball, Leonard Williams got up out of there. Yeah. They said, hey, Leonard Williams, defensive tackle, you want to stay here or, we got a trade? And he's like, a trade? I'm out of here.
I'm out of here.
Yeah, send me up out of here. So he's in Seattle now. So it's a strange looking game coming into this week, but it's an important one regardless, right? We knew this stretch would be, I hate to use the word easier, but it wasn't going to be your difficult stretch. Right. But because of the loss to the Cardinals, because you couldn't finish against the Eagles last week, I don't care that this is the Giants or the Panthers. I don't care. They need to win these games to keep pace in the NFC, and we can see a couple other NFC teams are winning right now as we speak.
No, you have to, and as someone who's played in this division before against these teams, despite how they may look on film, it's going to be a tough game, right? The Cowboys are always football teams' championship game, right? If you don't win any game of the season, the Cardinals are 1-9 right now, right?
And their Super Bowl was
the Dallas Cowboys, right? They're going to hang their hats in the air and go, hey, we may lose every other game this season, but we beat the Cowboys, and that's how teams approach that. As a person who I'm privileged to say that I play basketball for the University of North Carolina. And I always liken it to that is that when you go into other places, it doesn't matter. You can go into Cameron Indoor to face the school in Durham, or you can go to St. Mary's or Mother Seton or some Northwest directional school. You're going to get that team's very best, whether they're 20-0 or 0-20. It's the same thing for the New York Football Giants. Now, I will say, give them a reason to quit. Yes. And they're packing up the tent. Now, they're packing up the tent quick. But if you let them hang around, if you, as we like to say sometimes, if you play with your food and you don't just go ahead and take care of business early on and leave no doubt, then you give a team confidence that they can actually play with you. And that sometimes can be a little bit nerve-wracking and dangerous if it gets into the second half of the game where this team now has confidence and that ball starts bouncing all types of ways.
I think that's the, I don't want to use the word advantage, but that's kind of the bullet in the chamber that they have to shoot at you, is the fact that we have nothing to lose. We're not going to the playoffs. We don't have our first or second string quarterback. We're just going to throw everything at you. And we always talk about weathering the storm for different reasons, whether it be an offensive coordinator throwing things at you, whether it be a defense blitzing you, which we may see on the other side of the ball because, they blitz a lot. They do, right? They love to blitz a lot with Wink Martindale, or whether it be them just throwing the kitchen sink. You have to know coming into this game right off the bat, and I wouldn't be shocked if there's like an offsides kick or something. They're going to say, we have nothing to lose here, so we're throwing everything at you. So if you give them a reason to quit, I do think they'll lay down. But if you give them a reason to stay around, that's when you don't want this to turn into the Texans game last year at home, right? You're 17-point favorites, and now you're in a fight with two quarterbacks and a bad team looking to pick first in the National Football League drafts, an NFL draft. So Cowboys got to come out here and not play with their food. And to me, it starts with how it always starts. When the Cowboys get out and up early offensively, this defense follows suit, and it's just like an onslaught that happens to teams at home. We're talking about 11 straight victories at the crib.
11 or 12, yeah.
11 victories in a row at home by a margin of 17 points. And it's usually because this offense scores, or you get a special teams, or the defense gets a stop in the offense. And it's just like an avalanche that happens at home. And I think that has to start with, honestly, the offense this week. The Cowboys came out of last week. They finished with a sour taste at the end of that Eagles game. But they have a chance now to kind of get back to doing what they were doing those same 3 weeks, really, when you think about it, starting back from the Chargers. And that's really, in my opinion, just bludgeoning teams with CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, and we hope of Brandon Cooks and Dak Prescott. I think that's where they need to live. I know Wink is going to blitz.
Yes.
A whole lot. But Dak has had success against the blitz. But, how would you attack this week compared to week 1, where we were coming in with months and weeks to prepare, compared to a week now against Wink Martindale?
The thing is, and I've been on both sides of the ledger, as we call games like this, we call this the medicine game, the doctor game. This is what the doctor's order for you to get right. The get right game. Shout out to my boy Reg and Kev. But the get right game, because when you come in, this is where you know that you're already better than this football team. And so you try to go out there and get those things in your offense and your defense that's kind of been a little bit, I just can't quite get the curl all the way over. Well, you begin to work on those things a little bit. The way that Dak Prescott has played in the last 3 weeks, he's played an elite level of football. CeeDee Lamb has found his secret sauce. And now he's playing. I'm looking for another career high for him. I don't know what his career high touchdowns in the game is.
Lamb?
3? Yeah. Might be 3. 2. We need a 3 touchdown game, because that'll make back-to-back weeks where he hit career highs. He hit career highs in catches. He hit career high in yards. Now let's go get career high in touchdowns. But you talk about getting the running game going, and Deuce Pollard and Rico Dowdle, getting those guys going, and then now allowing the others to have an effect in the passing game. The Brandon Cooks, the Tolberts, the Michael Gallups. This is one of those games that just what the doctor ordered. You want your team to go out there, do what they do. Don't get out here and become something other than what you are, but go out here and do what you do. And then once you get and you build that lead, 14, 16, 17-point lead, now let's get those others going. And when we get those guys going and this thing gets really out of hand, you sit those other guys in the fourth quarter. Yeah. But this is a game that the doctor's ordered for the Cowboys, who've been playing some fantastic football for the last 3 weeks. Go out here and just continue now to put the sazon, the seasoning, on the other parts of the game, so that now you're well-rounded when you get through this stretch, because you're going to have everything clicking on all cylinders for that last stretch of the football season.
A couple of things that need some seasoning, and I was looking into this throughout the week, and then obviously for today's show. You said it briefly. Run game, Brandon Cooks.
Yeah,
I kind of want to start right there, and I was just digging into like what's happening with the run game, aside from the offensive line. Obviously, is not as good as it was last year.
That's where we start. It starts right there.
That's the biggest. That's one of the biggest things is the offensive line, right? But then it goes to what's up with the running backs? We talk about Tony Pollard being hurt. Is he the same? Lead back is different from being a RB2, but also we're not even getting any RB2 type of carries from Rico Dowdle in general. So the run game is just really weird. It's really broken. So I said, let me just investigate a little bit, Jesse. And I said, there's something that is significantly different about how it looks. I get the blocking. I get different backs and things like that. I went back and looked about and how much the Cowboys were running zone compared to running, gap scheme type plays. Mm-hmm. And it is flipped upside down on its head in previous years. Between 2020, 2021, and 2022, the Cowboys ran zone 63%, 52%, and 47% of the time. So you're talking about TP being in an offense that ran a lot of zone, as compared to 35%, which is a 12% decrease from last year alone, at almost half, almost 50% from 2020, which was a couple seasons ago, right? And the reason why I brought that up is because I watch how the Cowboys have had success lately in some of their runs. A lot of it's been zone. It's either been running from the zone standpoint or getting that pin pull with Tony Pollard on the outside. And speaking of outside, when you look at Tony Pollard's carries from the C gap out, he's had 62% or 43% of them have been outside, as opposed to 56% of them on the inside. That number, again, was flipped upside down on his head in previous years. So they're not only running Tony Pollard down the middle more than they've ever done it, they're also running him with more of like a power gap type of scheme as opposed to getting him involved in a zone where you have 2 or 3 or sometimes 4 different ways to run. So I think Dallas, you're talking about getting that curl quite right. I think they may need to tap back into getting into a zone situation for these running backs for TP and Rico Dowd.
And let's just kind of deep dive a little bit deeper in that so that those that at home understand.
Okay.
When you're talking about running a zone scheme versus a man-to-man scheme, is that and the Cowboys have done, according to your numbers, have been doing a lot more gap stuff. So what happens in that is now when you're running a zone scheme, you're talking about, we call it elephants on parade, right? You're talking about a bunch of guys moving at the same direction, at the same pace, kind of almost like building the wall as they're going up to the second level to get blockers. And now what happens is that running back has an opportunity to be what we call slow to fast through. Is as they're moving, I'm moving, and then when those blocks begin to sync up, I hit the gap and go.
Ground and go.
Opposed to the man blocking scheme, where it's literally man for man, and now you're asking all 5 guys up front to win their one-on-one battles. And when they're not doing that, and those guys are cutting into those gaps that the running back wants to run into, now guys, when you have to start bouncing holes in the man-to-man scheme, it throws everything off. The zone scheme, you got guys moving all at once. They're moving together, synchronized. Like I said, elephants on parade, ballerina type dancing. And now the running back can kind of pick and choose his holes and where he wants to hold, because the holes may develop on the front side. It may develop on the backside, right? Depending on how the zone is run. So just think about that conceptually, is that when they run zone, everybody's moving one direction, and the running back now can see where those holes develop, and he can hit them and gain yardage. Opposed to when they're doing man-to-man blocking, is if he has to hit it right now, and if that defender is in that gap, it's really tough to come and bounce back to the second gap, because now that guy has now,
especially if it's not blocked up.
If it's not blocked up,
and it haven't been blocked, and that's one of the reasons why I was thinking in my head, well, why don't we go back to more zone? Because they just are not winning their one-on-one man type blocks. They're not getting to the second level with success. And when they get to the second level, they're not holding on to that block. So you're not getting those springy runs that we're used to seeing, right? So maybe in a zone situation, you could take advantage of these linebackers over committing. In this particular game, they have some solid linebackers, but they're aggressive, right? So if they get going one way, put that foot in the ground, and maybe you can get some extra yards there. So it's just something I was thinking about from the round.
And some of that actually, Scott, comes down to who's coaching what. Right, because
Solari's a different.
Solari's a different, beast than what they have this year than what they had, a year ago. So this all plays into, all right, what does this coach like to do? And if Solari is a guy who likes to have more of the man-on-man concept than it is the zone concept, then that's what they try to marry all those things together, from a offensive line perspective to an offensive coordinator perspective to whatever system that they're trying to run. All those things now have to be married once, into one another. I was listening to Duke Manyweather talk about, they were asking about Terrence Steele. Yeah. And one of the things that he said, he was like, yeah, we know that he's coming off the injury, but he's also asked to do things that he didn't do before. Mm-hmm. So when you change up a guy's game in the ninth inning, that sometimes can throw them off. And then once you lose confidence in this game, we talked about an avalanche, that thing can begin to spiral out of control, because now you question everything, you overthink things. And as an offensive lineman, you have to be very confident in what you do, very reactionary in what you do, but also you got another 285-pound dude coming at you with bad intentions. And if you're not set right, if you're not doing things the right way, that can end very, very bad for you and for this offense, and things can get kind of out of whack. And I think for a guy like Terrence Steele, dealing with the injury, dealing with the confidence issue, asked to be doing different things than he was asked to do a year ago, all that compound in one can at times cause for what you're seeing in his performance. Then you add the injuries into the mix, right? You had your center out for some time, your tackle doesn't practice all the time, and he's out for some time. So now you're trying to put all these pieces in there together and ask them to do something cohesively as a unit. And when things aren't working right, it's a spiral effect at times.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was just thinking, when you talk about the Duke Manyweather thing, I would love for him to dive in a little bit more. But it brings me back, and my apologies, y'all, but it brings me back to when Solari first got here, and you listen to what Tyron Smith talked about, and I think Tyler Smith as well. He said they were asking those guys to be a little bit more aggressive, right? And if you watch Terrence, he's lean and he's grabbing, and then when he's missing, he looks just totally befuddled. Where somebody like Tyron, I don't think he can be coached into doing that consistently, because he's already a 12-year veteran. Right. Yeah. He knows how to win in this league. Yeah. He doesn't necessarily need to overhaul what he's doing. But for a guy like Terrence, he's still learning and developing, and you can see it there. You brought up Tyler Biadasz. He has once again another tough matchup with Dexter Lawrence, who is playing out of his mind from a pass rush standpoint in regards to getting pressure at the nose tackle. He has ridiculous amount of pressures as a nose tackle, which makes no sense. And Tyler's not looked like Tyler from previous years. I think the injury is definitely Tyler Biadasz. I'm sorry, is definitely a factor possibly, but he's gutting it out. He's a tough dude. And, he might not be as consistent, but he's going to have to be important today in both the run and pass because Dexter Lawrence is the problem on the other side.
And you talk about the injury, right, the hamstring injury, and you got to think about what are you asking Tyler Biadasz to do? You're asking him to snap the football, and then once I snap it, the thing that a center has to do is I have to anchor down, right? I have to really sit and anchor down. That is all that pressure and it's all that stress on the hamstrings. So if you're dealing with hamstring injuries and you haven't quite fully healed, you don't have that full strength of being able to anchor down, and it goes back to your point. And if you're lunging or if you're off balance, once I anchor down and I'm engaged with another 300-pound dude, and if I don't have the base strength to sit there and anchor down, when he gets to pushing and pulling and turning and twisting me, now I'm off kilter and I'm all over the place, and that creates those pressures right up the middle, which no quarterback in the National Football League likes to have pressure in their lap, but especially a quarterback like Dak Prescott who throws better from a clean pocket, right?
Sure.
He's not a quarterback that wants to go off off platform a lot. In the pocket,
like
right?
Moving is fine. In that pocket, no,
he wants a clean pocket, be able to drop the ball down the football field. And you talk about, and here's how all these things begin to add up. I don't have a clean pocket as a quarterback, and my pressure is coming from the middle. Well, what is the first thing that I'm going to do as a quarterback? My eyes will leave from the field down to where that pressure is coming at in front of me. And now what happens? I miss something happening down the football field. So these are all the small little intricate things that happen in the football play that sometimes people don't necessarily see or miss and go, well, how did he miss that guy?
Yeah.
Well, the pressure right in front of him had him drop his eyes from down the football field. And now when he looks back up, you have to recalibrate everything again, right? I have to look and see and kind of timing and go, can my arm make that pass there? Because I know that he's open now, but by the time I load up and throw it,
I can get hit.
And that other guy can make up some ground. Who is covering this guy? Where is he covering him at? Is he underneath? Is he over the top? So those are the things that sometimes people miss in the processing part when it comes from how pressure and how the offensive line blocking allows the quarterback to do what he has to do in his necessary reads, and then delivering the ball down the football field in these small windows that you can't be late in because these athletes are too great in the back end.
Now, Dak's been doing a tremendous job, dealing with it. Yes, he's been getting sacked, but I think these are a bit different than maybe the years past because we kind of been asking, move around, and he has been using his legs for the last 3 games, and still though he'll get sacked because you can't avoid them all, right? But when he is able to either sit in that pocket or scramble and use his legs, he's been finding Jake Ferguson and CD Lamb a lot over the last 3 weeks. And Jake Ferguson also had a career day last week, and I think he's kind of climbing that that hierarchy of, hey, this is a guy you need to incorporate week in, week out. We know CD Lamb. It took Lamb to come out, show his frustration, and say, hey, it's time to give me the rock, man. And ever since, he's just been on a freaking tear.
Yeah.
But it's also this guy, I think, that is next in that kind of wave of it's my turn, and that's Brandon Cooks. And I did this, again, this week. I was looking at his usage in the past and how can the Cowboys get him involved. And I was thinking, what are some easy buttons and things like that? And one of the things that popped up to me was getting involved in the screen game because that's what he was doing for Houston over the last 3 years. 11 screens in 2020, 17 to 2021, 8 last year in only about 12 games or whatever it was. And then this year, one screen. If you want to say, well, Sky teams are playing umbrella coverage too high, he's actually making an impact by drawing defenders, that's cool. But at the end of the day, you did not bring Brandon Cooks over here to be a decoy the entire time. You did not bring Brandon Cooks over here to be a guy that has less than 200 yards after 8 games in the season. You brought him over here to be a playmaker on the opposite side because there's going to come a time where teams are going to say, by hook or crook, I am not letting 88 beat me. You need to have somebody on the other side that could do some damage. And Brandon Cooks, I thought he was finding his way, for a couple weeks, right, against the Chargers and then I think it was the Rams. But even then, we're talking 4 receptions.
Yeah.
And
it was short. It was like 4 receptions for like 30-something yards.
Yeah,
it wasn't like 4.
He had one
for
big play.
80. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah,
1 25-yard play. That was it. But it wasn't like you said. It wasn't. Hey, he got 5 receptions, $120 because he took off for 70 yards. So I think they need to find a way. I'm not saying they got to force it like they did with CeeDee Lamb, but they need to find a way where organically Brandon Cooks is a feature part of this offense. Because if you get into the playoffs and teams say you're not beating me 88, we need to be able to see that 3 can.
Yeah, I've racked my brain all across the board trying to figure out what is actually happening here.
Yeah.
Right. At first it was, all right, cool. They're doing too high shell. Cool. Okay. But there has to be, and this is, if I have any beef with Mike McCarthy, Freaky Mike, is the inability to properly scheme guys open. We were talking behind the scenes before we got on the show, and I said one of the reasons why I like guys like Mike McDaniels and Kyle Shanahan and the McVays of the world is that they're saying, what is your skill set? And I'm going to figure out ways to use that skill set,
spam that skill set
to the maximum of his ability. When Bill Belichick was at his prime, when he had Tom Brady, they were just saying, here's what these guys are really good at doing. We're going to do it to the maximum ability. I think at times Mike McCarthy gets, and it's not just him, but we're talking about the Cowboys. Right. A lot of coaches get stuck in their ways of this is how I run an offense, and they sometimes you have to adjust to the player.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes a player's not going to adjust and fit in your offense. You have to fit to the player. And I think that's the thing that I want to see more from Mike McCarthy is this guy is too good of an athlete. Everywhere he's been a walking 1,000-yard receiver. For us to be 9 games into the season and he has less than 200 yards, total offense. Total. Like I joke around.
Well, he got like a carrier too, but I mean, he's a receiver.
At this point in time, at the number 2 receiver in the league, you're supposed to be around 400, 500, 600 yards. But at this point in time, like you're not supposed to be under 200 yards, and we're heading into the 9th week of the football season, 10th week overall. So I just feel like Mike has to do a better job at specifically designing things that he will get Brandon Cooks open. They haven't done a good job with that, and I don't know if it's a screen, but maybe it is a screen. Maybe just
get you going a little bit.
Get the juices flowing. But you got to be better at the play scheming, designing, and calling to get players like that involved into the progression of the offense. Because you're absolutely right. When we get to the playoffs, and it's Philly or it's San Fran or it's Seattle or whoever it is, they're going to say 88 is not going to beat us, especially when the game is on the line. Philly did it. Philly said, you have to go to Jalen Tolbert. They said, we're anybody else can beat us. And that's going to be the pivotal thing that you need to be able to have in your getting to the playoffs and trying to work the kinks out of that is too late. Right. That you need to have an answer for that right now, so that when you get to the playoffs, you have a set of plays or packages or understand what looks you have looks that go, when they go to this look and they try to eliminate CeeDee Lamb, here's where we're going to go. And if you don't have that, you're setting yourself up for failure.
And I give him so much credit because there's obvious frustrations just from a common sense, right? Like a common sense would tell you he's frustrated, but he's not showing it. He said, I've learned that that's going to do no good. He's a veteran. He's, happy for what's happening with Lamb and whatnot, but any competitor wants to be involved. Yeah. And you said something, a little earlier about, every coach can be stubborn. And I think we were seeing that at the beginning of the season, the first 4 weeks or so of the season, where the Cowboys were stubborn. Mike wanted to run the Texas Coast, West Coast style offense. There's quick slants. All my receivers are running shorter routes. And we saw that, right? We actually were even running the ball much more. It was like kind of flipped upside down. Actually, it's a bit more balanced. But over the last 3 weeks, I don't know if you've noticed, it is went away from more West Coast things and we've been deeper with the ball, more intermediate routes.
We went to the here we go offense.
Yeah, I was just about to say, he said we got to cut Dak loose.
We went to the here we go offense.
So I wonder if, because I feel like there's a tale of 2 seasons from the offense. There's that first 4 weeks, and there's the last 3 weeks. The first 4 or 5 weeks, and there's the last 3 weeks. Maybe we're just now figuring out, okay, we got it down with CeeDee Lamb. We got it down with Jake Ferguson. Maybe now, and this is a good time to do it because no offense to the Giants, but the Giants are not a good team.
Yeah.
This could be a time where we say, okay, let's figure out how we get Brandon Cooks involved moving forward, so we're not playing around in the playoffs trying to figure it out.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. And this week. It's very rare that in the middle of the season that you have two preseason games.
Very.
This week and next week, you got 2 preseason games. You got the Giants this week, and you got Carolina next week. It's very rare that you get those in the middle of the year. This like I said earlier, this is the game where you gotta get right. You gotta figure out those things that you need to, because contrary to what some people may believe, I think the Washington game is going to be.
Oh yeah, they're going to play you competitive.
That's going to be a competitive football game with Eric Bieniemy and Ron Rivera. But we'll get there when we get there. But these are the games where you have to get right. Whatever has been off, whatever has been kind of stalling out, you got to put the effort to get those things right in these next 2 weeks, and you're able to do so without really having to worry, I hope, about the other team really putting the pressure on you. From an offensive standpoint, where you got to get into these type of shootouts.
Yeah, and we briefly touched on it, but I'd be shocked if Wink Martindale changes his stripes. However, he did shock me week 1. He did not send the house at Dak a whole lot. One thing that he is famous for, though, is the simulated pressures.
Yes.
And there was a fantastic, segment on NFL Live about that and how that can trip up teams. And that was actually one of Dak's completion percentage-wise, one of his lower games in week 1. But it's week 1. I kind of take that with a grain of salt. I just got a feeling Wink is going to be like, man, screw sitting back, playing zone, just letting Dak Prescott pick us apart. If he's going to pick us apart, he's going to do it getting hit. So if that's the case, that means what? More man. That means if they decide to do some type of man zone concept, that zone's likely going towards Lamb. So 3 should be able to have some opportunities today to get off.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. We are live here from Walk-Ons in Arlington, Cowboys Nation, for the Cowboys pregame show, brought to you by our good people here at Walk-Ons. Let's flip it to the other side here on the defensive side of the ball. Micah had his podcast, right? And he came out with shouts out to Gilly, man. Gilly would go anyways. He's like, I just got to be there. It was a great pass. And
Gilly might be the worst guest to have on any show. Like, honestly, like nothing against Stephon Gilmore. Cool dude. I don't know him personally, but seeing the worst guest you want on it. Anything that was related talking. Like, I watched part of it, and like he sat back there doing this. 90% I was like, this is the worst guest to have on it. It's like, no, ever. You never want Stephon to do anything that requires him to talk.
Right. That is not his game, man. That's not his game. But he got to talking about the game and whatnot. And these guys are annoyed about how that finished. And they should be. They should be annoyed with themselves too, because they got off to a rough start. Mm-hmm. We're at 6 games in a row now for the Cowboys where teams have gone out and scored a point on their opening possession, whether it be a field goal or a touchdown. We're now in 3 losses for the Cowboys defense. They've given up 32 points per game, 4 touchdowns allowed, 4+ touchdowns allowed in each game. We're at a point now when and this shouldn't happen in this game, but we're at a point now when the games do become competitive. We're not just looking at the offense side of the ball. We're looking at you defense. So, we need this defense. And again, it's not going to matter to fans. It's not going to matter to the media, but we need a defense to come out here and I think bounce back and do what they did in that fourth quarter against the Eagles, which was shut them down with 14 yards. We need them to do that early. So like you said, once we get to the fourth quarter, it's Cooper Rush versus Danny DeVito's son Tommy, as opposed to Dak and Danny DeVito going back and forth for 4 entire quarters. But I just think this defense needs to get back to doing what it's known for: turn the ball over, sacking the quarterback, pressuring the quarterback, and making a life living hell for that quarterback. And there's no better quarterback to face to do that than Tommy DeVito, who is happy to get his little chicken cutlets in his bed made at his mom's crib, going up against a defense that's hungry and got mortgages and kids on the other side.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But the thing that the great Dan Quinn always says is what? It's a privilege to pass rush, right? With a quarterback like Tommy DeVito, the 2 things that you have to worry about is his ability to run the football. When you go back and you watch him at Illinois and at Syracuse, he's a guy who will tuck the football away and run. Like he will do that. Like when you watch the small cut ups that he has,
it ain't there. I'm out.
And right now with him trying to process all the things that he's trying to process, if that first read isn't there, he's gonna tuck it around. What does that mean for the Cowboys offensively? You gotta be sound in what you're doing. because in these type of games, you look up and you go, boy, we could really pad the stats right here. We can really go out there and get sacks and get interceptions. Yep. And all of a sudden, we're out of our lanes. We're doing different things that are not supposed to do. So that what rings in my head when it comes to when it comes to this defense is they're going to try to give the ball to Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, they're going to give it to Saquon. Yep.
They're going to give the ball, and that's the second thing. They're going to give the ball to Saquon Barkley, try to establish a run game, try to put this kid, Tommy DeVito, in 3rd and shorts so that you can't just come and tee off on them because it's 3rd and 2, it's 3rd and 3. Now they have an opportunity to do one or the other. Unlike if it's 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10.
That's where you want to keep him.
That's when you want him at now because now you can confuse him. You can bring blitzes. You can have Micah come after him. And their offensive line isn't a really good. Let me be honest with you. Their offensive line is trash.
Bad, bro.
So if you can put them in 3rd and long situations, that plays in favor to your defense. But you have to make the main thing the main thing. It is a privilege to pass rush, so you got to eliminate the run on those early downs. Don't give them the opportunity to scramble and make plays for you so that you get to the 3rd and shorts. And then once you get to 3rd and long, now you can call the dogs and say, get them.
Yeah. This offensive line, like you said, it's a privilege. They have to earn that privilege and stop Saquon first. They're starting to give him the ball. Over the last 4 games, I think he's averaging like 28 touches a game. So you're going to see a lot of Saquon, whether it be in the run game or the pass game, which is why on the flip side, I say get out ahead offensively so you can make them one-dimensional because they gave up 8 sacks last week. 8 sacks, 2 of them to Daniel Jones, 6 on Tommy DeVito. So it's a poor offensive line. Andrew Thomas is in his 2nd game back from an injury he suffered in week 1, and he gave up 2 sacks last week. Evan Neal is out right now, which is probably a blessing to Giants fans. It's not good. They're on their like 2nd or 3rd right guard. The center, John Michael Schmitz, is he's a good young player, but just can't handle this type of defensive front. So you want to put that pressure on that offensive line by stopping Saquon Barkley first, because and again, I don't expect Tommy to have a whole bunch of time to throw. But, Wan'Dale Robinson is a quick, shifty guy. Yeah. They've been trying to target a bunch. We know Jalen Hyatt he has the speed. He can get deep. Tommy, at least in that game against the Raiders, lived in YOLO land. Yeah. It was, hey, you mean to tell me I got 2 seconds? YOLO, and he's just throwing it up. That's why he threw 2 interceptions. So, you got to be prepared on that back end, and you got to keep things in front of you. And just, honestly, if I'm the secondary, if I'm Dan, I'm not telling my guys to overdo anything out there. I'm just saying, we should have trust in our front to eat, and you should be able to be rewarded on the back end, in my opinion.
No, I absolutely agree with that. And when I throughout the week, I talked about these type of games from the Cowboys' perspective. Where it becomes dangerous is, so every week you come into the facility on a Monday, and each coach on the offense and the defense side of the ball, they're giving cut-ups. Everyone is just assigned cut-ups. Hey, you got 1st and 10. You have 3rd and long. You have red zone. And so you get these cut-ups that each player gets. And the thing that I remember as a player is when you look up and you go, we're playing the Giants this week, and you're like, they're absolutely trash, the Booty Juice Giants. Those cut-ups, you begin to stop. You go through them one time, and you're like, I can't watch this again.
Oh, yeah.
I can't watch this again. Normally when you dedicate time to watch a film, you call a shorty over that do that thing that you like with her mouth. Like you call her over. You sometimes.
Not me.
Not you.
No, he talking about them
as a player.
Oh,
you go to a movie. You get on Fortnite. You're playing the game a little bit more. You're not studying, right? Because those cut-ups get absolutely horrific to watch because they're so bad. So you got to just make sure that these guys are locked in mentally, that they're not overlooking this team and saying, that's nothing. We'll just kind of sail through this thing and we'll go out there.
Michael brought that up, right? He said we should learn a lesson from that Cardinals game. I wonder if they was, making phone calls and everything after watching the Cardinals game. And then we talk about how this is different for multitude of different reasons, personnel-wise or what have you. But also the reason why I think it's different from week 3 is because the Cowboys are coming off a loss. The Cowboys are coming off with 2 of the biggest blowouts in the history of football the first 2 weeks of the season, going into that game against the Cardinals, who was on a journeyman quarterback at the time, which shouts out to him, by the way.
Shout out to Josh Dobbs.
Josh Dobbs, losing to him don't look too bad right now. But Josh Dobbs, fantastic young journeyman quarterback. But they're coming off a loss. They're at home. They haven't lost at home in 11 games. They also haven't lost to the Giants in 12 games where Dak Prescott is starting. So I do think there is a little bit difference there. But the one common denominator, though, is, well, this is a poor team. And when you took a poor team lightly before, we saw what happened. So you're absolutely right. I think this is going to be about mental focus, mental fortitude early on in this game, which is why we go back to the beginning of this whole thing. Don't let them hang around. Don't give them a reason to just end this thing and quit. Because there's guys over there that, and I think it was Isaiah was like, hey, man, I was watching Dexter. He just was like, hey, I'm tapped out here.
Let me give you another inside perspective on what the guys over at the Giants game. That's why I said earlier, if you give them a reason to quit, they're going to pack up and leave. Because you got a lot of guys on that Giant football team that are thinking one or two things. They're making the phone calls to baby mama, to wife, to the roadie and saying, hey, listen, call Carl and them and tell them to start shipping the cars back to our off-season house. Right? They're ready to
pack it up,
pack the house up. They're also saying this. They've also made the call to their agent, and they said, read me those incentives on my contract again. You said I need to have 6 interceptions to get that $250,000 bonus. I need how many sacks?
Hero ball.
I'm going YOLO hero ball. So now I'm outside of my alignment. I'm jumping routes. I'm trying to go get those things. Because they understand at this point in time, we don't have a shot in hell at making the playoffs. So everything now is about the individualized stats, escalators. How can I go out there and get more bread out of these folks before the season is over? I'm taking all this stuff out of New Jersey and New York, and I'm shipping it to Texas or Florida or Georgia or Houston or wherever the heck I got my offseason living at right now. That's the thought process and the mind frame of a lot of these players on the end, and they're making the ultimate business decision. And here's why. Do I want to go in there and really put my neck on the line? Nobody wants to get hurt as the season begins to close, because now I have to stay in rehab.
Rehab.
I got to stay in rehab. I want to get out of here. I want to go somewhere.
You don't want to be in New Jersey.
I don't want to be in New Jersey. This season is over. So, but if I hurt my neck, if I got a knee, I got an ankle that's going to require 8 weeks. They throw me on the IR. We only got 3 weeks left, whatever. Or I got an 8-week rehab process, and we only got 3 weeks left. That means I got to be reporting here for 5 extra weeks rehabbing. So guys are ready to make the ultimate business decision of, I'm not trying to get hurt right now. I need to get my stats so I can get my escalators. And if you give me a reason to pack this thing up, I'm going to put it in my Louis duffel and I'm going to get on the plane and head back home.
Give them a reason to think about that crib in Florida.
Yes.
You give them a reason to do that, I think you handle business. And that kind of leads me into what we've been doing lately here for the show, pregame show, is the Cowboys win if, and for me, it's basically if they get off to a fast start. I don't foresee any situation here where if Dallas is up 14 to 17 points early, that this Giants team has the firepower to get back in this game, especially because now those defenders can pin their ears back, get after the quarterback, and now just naturally Gilly and J-Ron and Hooker and Dono and Deron Bland and Jay Lou, all these guys can now naturally play aggressive as opposed to having to press a little bit back there. So I think if Dallas gets off to a fast start, they win this game going away.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And for me, the Cowboys win if they protect up front. It's going to have to start there. You're going to have to protect up front. We know that Tyron didn't practice for most of the week. We talked about Tyler Biadasz and him having those struggles. And then Terrence Steele, right? Like, these teams are going to look at Terrence Steele and go, oh, he fooled too, right? Like, let's continue to add on to the bad performance that he's had. So if you're not able to protect up front, you're not going to get the running game going. You're not going to get this offense going, which then leads to the opportunity of getting the lead and then having the defense have the lead by 14, 17, 21 points, and then they can pin their earbacks and go get after Tommy DeVito. So for me, it's this offensive line has to protect much better because they're going to be coming early. Early in this game, they're going to try to see if they can't go out there and steal a possession, create a sack fumble, right? And also, in their YOLO-ness and their wildness, I don't want Dak to be hurt. I don't want Terrence Steele to be whiffing and Kayvon Thibodeau comes around. The next thing you know, he's hitting him on the hand and it's a thumb injury and he's out for 4 weeks because that can be devastating for the Cowboys going forward. So up front, you have to be focused and locked in on protecting the quarterback, getting the running game going, and allowing things to be effective for you offensively.
I couldn't agree more. If they don't protect it up front, then you allow them to not think about their house in Florida, but think about, dang, we might be able to get and it's going to be not the veterans. It's going to be those young guys that got nothing to lose, or those down roster guys or backups with those incentives to get. They're like, hey, we got a chance here. So that's basically what it is for the Cowboys to get this victory, Cowboys Nation. So about 5 more minutes, the Cowboys will be kicking off in Arlington against the Giants. We are live here at Walk-Ons. We'll be back for the halftime show. Make sure I come back and hopefully, again, say this all the time, it's a positive because I shouldn't have to go crazy.
No,
today,
not
Jess.
today.
I shouldn't have to be
today.
over here acting all crazy.
No.
So I'm going to try to keep as best I can because it don't matter who we play. As best I can, keep my emotions in check. But if I have to come on here and cussing out somebody, Michael Gallup, then it's a problem. There's going to be a problem. But nonetheless,
might be your second cousin, though.
I've been cussing him out for weeks.
Might be your second cousin.
He ain't been invited to the cookouts for quite some time.
Thanksgiving around the corner. He might not. You don't want to miss. You don't want to miss Mama and them stuffing and
He's going to be in the living room. He's going to be at
the little kids table.
Exactly. Hey, look. Good. I don't think Terrence is going to play like he played last week. I think that was like one of those lowest moments of the season types. I don't think what Terrence was in week 8 or week 9 is what Terrence is going to be forever.
Okay.
So I think he'll bounce back. We just need him to stack good days, right? Need Cuzzo to stack good days. All right, Cowboys Nation. See you guys at halftime. Cowboys kicking off in a few minutes here. Appreciate y'all for coming through. We out.